your dreams, your plans, the details, if you're like me, they matter so much to you. They mean so much to you that you don't want to surrender them. But it's that mindset of they matter so much to me that Dad, will you hold these plans? And I trust you with them.
Welcome to the Everyday Adventure podcast, where we talk about how you can live your ordinary life to the fullest and make room for what matters most. My name's Steven, and I'm joined by Megan. How are you doing, Megan?
I'm good. This is so fun. We're joined today by a pastor of Red Rocks Church in Austin, Texas, Doug Wekenman. He wrote a book, and Steven gets to sit down with him today and just get to hear more of his heart.
Yeah, I'm so excited for you to hear today's episode because Doug not only wrote What Does God Have Planned for Me Next, which is an excellent book, an excellent looking book, by the way, but also the conversation isn't just about his book. The conversation is really about, well, what does God have planned for me next? And I'm sure that's a question you've asked yourself, is like, why am I here? There's maybe you've graduated college or you're married and now you're trying to figure out, what does this look like? Well, we all ask those questions. And so this conversation is going to help you have some tools and how to hear God's voice and how to really lean into what God is speaking to you. So I really believe this episode can be transformational if you really are in a place where you're like, how do I hear God's voice? How do I learn and discern what God is trying to do in my life and figure out why I'm here? This one is for you. So make sure you listen up, take some good notes, because I really believe that this episode is going to bless you. So let's jump into this episode with Doug Wekenman. Hey, welcome to the podcast, Doug. How are we doing?
I'm good, Steven. How you doing, man?
I am great. You're the second Wekenman I've had on the podcast, which is what a life. 26 episodes and two Wekenmans.
And two Wekenmans. That's the first one's a bigger deal than the second one, I promise you that. But that's awesome, man. I'm honored to be guest number 26. Let's
Your
go.
older brother, though, right?
I am by 18 months. Yep.
So you got him. You got him.
Yeah. In everything, but except for being an author, I'm following in my little brother's footsteps.
But yeah, you guys, I mean, I know Ryan shared some of this on his episode, so go back and listen to that one if you haven't. But you guys planted a church together, right? Like you guys moved with a group of friends and you're doing the thing.
We sure did, man. 8 years ago, we moved from Denver to Austin to start a church. And it was almost exactly 8 years ago, actually. It was July of 2018. My wife, 9 months pregnant. We show up with a U-Haul of all of our stuff. Biggest leap of faith ever. Terrified, alive, excited, in the middle of Austin heat, right in the summer. So we're like, we
Yeah.
just dove straight into the deep end. And my wife doing that, 9 months pregnant, I'm like, well, I leaves no space for me to complain about the heat at all because, she's not complaining and she's pregnant. So I just, I got to just deal with it and dive in and you acclimate. That's what I'm learning is this summer is really, really hot. I think right now it's like 103, but it's not nearly as bad as it would have been like 6 years ago, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I would like to say the same thing about winters in Fargo, but I don't know if you can acclimate to negative like 10, you know?
That's crazy, man.
I know we were talking before the show and you've been to Fargo once 2 years
Mhm.
ago. So I got to give you the props. Most people, they're like, oh, that's one of the only states, North Dakota, that I haven't been. I don't know why we're always last.
I don't know, man. Not me, not for me. I've been there. I've checked that off the list.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. No, that's cool. I mean, when we, about 7 years ago, my wife and I, we moved to the Philadelphia area for a short time and did some
Okay.
work in ministry there. And I just found a video, is like a memory that pops up, and it was our speech to our friends at our going away party where we announced our second pregnancy. And so we moved with like a 1 year old, and my wife was just newly pregnant. We're like, what are we doing?
Yes. You're like, what, why do all of this right now?
Yeah.
What is it about us that makes Like we're just gonna have all the kids make the moves and do it all in the exact same season. It makes for good stories, I guess.
Yeah, and well, and that's the thing is like what we're talking about today is, talking about what God has planned for us and how we navigate his voice, discern what he's got in store for us. And when I look back at the trail in my life, it's rare that it's like, oh yeah, that was the perfect timing from my vantage point to do that thing.
Hmm.
Like that move on paper looked really dumb to us.
Right.
So how does that factor in to your story? Because I mean, I think again, if we were just to do what we want to do all the time, it would be a very boring life. And yet God invites us into these things at quote unquote inconvenient times. How has that played out for you?
Yeah, I feel like there's a romantic idea of the concept of following God into the good plans he has for our lives. Like we read the verse about it and we say the prayer. It's the tagline of my book. Like I want to experience all of it and miss none of it. And
Yeah.
in theory, the idea of that is awesome. It's always awesome because you can control it in your imagination. But the reality of doing it like costs you. It costs big time. I think that a lot of ways about Christian culture in the United States, the way we talk about revival and awakening, we always seem to talk about it how like God's about to do it. He's about to do it. It's almost happening. It's rolling in over the mountains. It's the next thing. And but if we're not careful, we always kind of keep it there at an arm's length as he's about to do it, as
Mm,
opposed to he is doing it right now. I'm going to, move across the country and start the church one day. I'm going to do this one day. I'm always about to because it's a lot safer as an idea because you can
yeah.
control it and it doesn't cost you anything. But when you actually surrender and let go and say, okay, you have my yes before you even tell me what it is. That costs you everything. And it's painful and gritty and scary, but also amazing and rich and fulfilling. And I'll take that combination any day.
Yeah, I love that. I think, a big theme, obviously the podcast, Everyday Adventure. I think following Jesus is the greatest adventure of all time. And,
Yeah.
oftentimes though, I think we miss that. And, I'm looking at your book. It's kind of the advanced copy, but such a good book. And one of the things you talk about is how let God ruin your plans,
Mm.
and, in what ways kind of has that happened in your story, and why is that something that we should actually proactively kind of aim at?
That it's interesting because I've always been a little bit of a planner. And in college, had everything planned out for my life. I was going to be an orthopedic surgeon for a sports team. That was my dream. And I was going for it, working hard at it, had everything planned out and where I was going to live and what my life would look like. Started following Jesus halfway through college and started to surrender little bit by little bit to him and eventually just said, hey, the plans you have for me, like I'm in. And I'm guessing it's this, what I already was planning on.
Yeah.
And I was inviting him into it, which sometimes does work, where God's like, okay, thanks for inviting me in. Let's go. But oftentimes it's, I want what you have for me, whether it's this or not. And in my case, you know, he ruined all my plans in the best way, I always say, although it didn't feel like that a lot in the moment. But I had an opportunity to try ministry for a year, to do a year-long internship with our college campus in Boulder, which is where I got saved the year after I graduated. So I thought I would take a 1 year break from school in between undergrad and med school. And it would look good on my resume, make me a better doctor, people
Yeah.
person, all that stuff. And then it was like 4 weeks into that internship, I was like, I think I'm supposed to do this. I don't want to be like make grand statements, but I think I'm supposed to give the rest of my life to this, is what it felt like. And up until this point, 15 years later, I'm still believing and saying the same thing.
Yeah.
And I'm now a pastor and I'm a church planter. And I would not have guessed this in a million years. When I started college, my freshman year, like I would not have guessed I would be here talking to you in 2026 about church planting and writing a book about God's plans and all that. Like it's it's just it'll make you laugh,
Yeah.
And so, but I'm very, very grateful, man. I His plans, not only will he sometimes ruin them, but they're better than what
Yeah.
we think up. God's ways are always better. And if you can trust him enough to surrender, I think he finds ways to surprise you.
Yeah, I think, when we talk about plans and following God, there's obviously the little things, there's the what am I going to eat today
Yeah.
or what, the how am I going to handle this coworker situation? And then there's the big things, the giving up the degree and going a totally
Mhm.
different direction. I think it's easy
Mhm.
sometimes when we're in this place to look back and go, because I was similar. I went to school for PR, advertising, sports management, but felt like a call to ministry through our college ministry.
Okay.
And, I was a college pastor for 6 years. And, along the way, now it's like, oh, yeah, everything is kind of planned out or has played out. But in the moment, it doesn't feel like that. So maybe to that person that's kind of in that place that they're like, man, I feel like I don't know what to do right now. Like I have this conflicting thought. I've been going to school and maybe not at ministry, but maybe take us back through what you remember of your experience. Like how is God speaking to you or how can we allow him to speak to us?
I had a pastor. His name was Bill, and is the college director of that ministry. And it wasn't until a month before graduation, my senior year of college, that he just in a briefly in passing just said, "Hey, um, you maybe have never had anybody tell you this, and I guarantee you've never thought about it, but there might be a call to ministry on your life, and I have a good way you can maybe investigate it and explore
Yeah.
it." And that was what led to the open door to here's an internship if you want to try it for a year. So what's interesting is I feel like that's two things. First of all, is there was an open door, and I think God speaks through open doors and closed doors all the time. Even when we moved to Austin, we one of the first things we had to do was find a physical location for our church to meet, to plant it, to start it. We got 90 no's and one yes. It's really hard to
Yeah.
find space in Austin to do anything related to Christianity, especially start a church. So we had one open door and 90 closed doors. And so it was kind of like, well, that's what you're speaking to us is this building right here, because it's the only
Yeah.
open door. And I feel like he does that a lot with sometimes you just got to knock on doors and let God open and close them. I would say almost to somebody who errs on the side of paralysis or errs on the side of inaction, I would say, hey, don't you close the door. You keep knocking and investigating and head that direct, and then let God be the one to speak to you by closing doors. Like you didn't get into that college, you didn't go to med school, or you got into that
Right.
med school, or this interview, like you applied for 100 and these five called you back. Okay, walk through those and then let God speak through you that way. So it was open doors and closed doors, but then also it was through a person that I
Yeah.
trusted. It was Bill who I really feel like God spoke to me through him. And I have a few stories in that book. One of them it's kind of funny to read. It wasn't that funny to live. And he spoke like one of those Christian call out iron sharpens iron
Yeah.
conversations with me where he like, hey, you need to get your act together because you're a leader in the ministry, but you're not living like it outside of church. And God spoke to me through him. God spoke to me through him when it was, hey, I'm calling you into ministry. He did it through Bill. And so I think that proverb, walk with the wise and get around the people who you know God has their ear,
Yeah.
that you trust the source because yeah, I've had people give me words that I don't really know or that I haven't really trusted. You know, you have to discern if somebody says they have a word from God or feel like God might be impressing on them to tell you something, you got to weigh that out and discern it. Through Bill, it was never like I never had to do that. It was,
Right.
I trust this guy and I know he loves me and wants what's best for me. And God used him as a vessel and communicated to me. So all like the college students like you pastor, if I had a room with all of them, I would tell them to listen to their pastor
Yeah.
because God's going to communicate through him to
Yeah.
them all the time. And through your prayer, like sermon prep, all that book writing, all that kind of stuff is God giving you a message for the people that you are shepherding, like the people that you love, that you want to pastor. I feel like the more you love people, the more God will give you that prophetic gift of being able to speak something timely into their life because God loves these people and he'll use you to do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for
So
sure.
yeah, people and open doors. That was the short answer to
Love it.
your great question. So,
Love it. No, I think, you have a Bill, I have a Brad, and
okay.
there's people that speak into us in ways that it's beyond our own experience. It's beyond our own understanding of ourselves. And I know
Hmm.
you also, talk about the word and just both the alignment to the word, but also I don't know how you worded it, but like in order to trust God, you have to know God. And it's not just
Yeah.
know about God. You had an illustration, I'm losing it right now, of just kind of the difference between knowing facts about him and actually knowing him and how that
Yes.
impacts us.
Hmm. Yeah, it was Scotty Scheffler, the
Yes.
number one ranked PGA golfer in the world,
Yeah.
has two green jackets. That he's won the Masters twice. That's what that means. He's the best golfer in the world, and I know a lot about him.
Yeah.
I could tell you probably facts for like 10 minutes about him and different tournaments he's won and where he grew up. But if you run into him later, don't tell him that Doug Wekenman says hi because he will have no idea who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because I know things about him, but I don't know him. And there's a big difference between those two things. I think a lot of us know God the way I know Scotty Scheffler, the way we know some of our favorite actors and artists. We know things about them, but we don't know them. And that's one of the reasons it's so hard sometimes to know what God has planned for you next and hear from him is because some Christianese and the right things to say and the right things to do and when to raise your hands or whatever and what night of the week to go to college ministry and all that stuff. But you can know about him without knowing him.
Yeah.
And it's when you can start, you know somebody so well that you can finish each other's sentences. Like we don't know God well enough to finish his sentences oftentimes.
Yeah.
But all of his sentences are in the word, which is also, I just preached about this at our church this past weekend. If you have access to a Bible and you can't tell me that you don't, then you also can't tell me that God doesn't want to talk to you because he's
Yeah.
talking to you all the time in these words right here,
Yeah.
always speaking. I think it was Chris Hodges who said, God doesn't have a speaking problem, we have a hearing problem. He's always communicating. And he has different ways of going about that. But so much of our modern world is not set up um, for us to communicate with God the way he oftentimes communicates with people.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
think there's so much truth to that, and even if we don't know what he sounds like and the things that he does say, it's very hard to discern those specific things to our lives. And
Hmm.
the one thing that I've really learned is, you know, kind of this transition I had 2018 18 or 19, my wife and I, we moved. We really like looked at Genesis 12, and God tells Abraham, "Go to the place I will show you." And like that felt like it just kind of rung true to us. So even though we didn't necessarily know every step along the way, we didn't know what it would lead to. We didn't know it would bring us back home to where we are now again. But that was
Hmm.
like the drum that it was like, okay, we can follow him, and
Yeah.
he's going to keep leading us. And but I think, something that you say early in your book is, as Christians, we're called to follow a God we can't see with a voice we can't hear
Hmm.
into a future we don't know. And I think that's so easy, I think, for somebody to get caught up in. And that, like, how do I
Yeah.
do that? And so how have you navigated kind of that in your life? And I know we're talking about a little bit of that right now, but what does that look like for you?
Well, it's funny. I took me and my best friend Ethan took our boys. They're the same age. They're both 7. We took them golfing yesterday evening for the very first time ever golfing. And they've been looking forward to, they watch golf all the time on TV. We've been to putt putt before, and there's a realization anybody who wants to golf and gets into it has this kind of, it's a little bit of a wake up call the very first time you do it, where you realize, oh man, I'm not good at this. I thought I would be because it looks really easy on TV when I watch Scotty Scheffler play.
Right.
And it can be really frustrating, or it can be exciting, because on one hand, if it's frustrating, it's, well, I thought I'd be better at this, but it's hard. I guess I'm not cut out for it. And you throw your clubs and you say bad words and you just get angry and it's not even fun to play.
Yeah.
Versus the other one where it's okay, like I'm not being graded on this. I'm not in the PGA Tour. Doesn't matter how well I shoot. I'm gonna enjoy the process of getting better.
Yeah.
I'm going to enjoy the game. I feel like it's similar with trying to follow a God we can't see with a voice we can't hear into a future we don't know. It's like I tell my son Will, I'm like, golf is hard, buddy. And what I would tell people trying to follow God into their next chapter, I'm like, all making these big kind of decisions, and this is not easy, but it can do one of two things. It can make you so frustrated where you think this must be for varsity Christians and I'm on the JV team, or it's, man, I'm not being graded on this. I have a God who's a father who loves me, who's going with me, who will take all the decisions I make as the best I can, even though they'll be imperfect, and he'll weave them together to get me where he's trying to get me. And one day I'll look back and I'll see the whole tapestry, and I'll see all the evidence for God's faithfulness and how he worked through my choices, not around them or in spite of them, as Tim Keller would say. And that can excite you of, I'm going to get better at this, and I'm going to know God's voice more. I'm going to get better at hearing from him. I'm going to get better at making godly decisions. I want to learn and get closer to him and be able to help others do the same thing. So I think having that mindset over, well, I'm JV, I'll never be varsity, whatever that means, that's not even a thing in Christianity, but we just sort of have
Right.
that imposter syndrome where we feel like it is, where this is for the elite level Christians, and I'm certainly not that. I know who I am. And to that person, I'd say, it doesn't sound like you do know who you are,
Right.
because you are an image bearer. You are a son or a daughter of God, and he wants to speak to you and guide you and has good plans in mind for you and wants to write this next chapter of your life with you. Like, um, it's not just you, it's not just him, it's him through you. And he designed it that way.
Yeah.
And how cool that is. So I got lost in that, and I was thinking about golf and following Jesus and God's good plans, and I got excited, and then I forgot the question that you originally asked me. So
Hey,
sorry, Stephen.
no,
Yeah.
we're landed. I mean, this is
Yeah.
that's the thing, is just like, um, you know, even thinking of what we just talked about, of just like there's a C.S. Lewis quote. You quote it. It's one of my favorite quotes too.
Oh,
It's like that we we have such a small view. You know, it's like the mud pies in the slum versus
mhm,
the vacation at the sea, and we're far too easily pleased. And so I think,
mhm.
like when I think of just that reframing of like life with God is an adventure. I think for so many people, it's kind of this boring, like, oh no, what if God sends me to Africa? You know, like what if God makes me quit my job, and what if God makes me live in a smaller house, or what if God makes me be single? You know, we almost like catastrophize all these things that can really truly be the gateways into
Uh-huh.
the life God has for us. And so
Mhm.
I think again, you always are able to look back at those things and see God's hand in it.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, to something that we've talked about, sometimes the reframing of it or how I've chosen to see it, spontaneous people really resonate. Like, oh yeah, adventure, cool, I'm in. But for that type A person, you know, I don't think it's about not having plans or not having dreams, but kind of
Mm-mm.
what's the place for those things? Because again, there's things that God has put in us over time that have been Him all along. And so, how would you say that? Or if the person was asking, like, so am I not supposed to make any plans? Am I just supposed to read my Bible and just start walking?
No, I get that because I think some like if you're type A or you're a planner at all, you read a you hear about this conversation and you're panicking because you're thinking God is this like loose cannon Enneagram 7
Yeah,
who just throws curveballs all the time just because he can.
yeah,
And but he's a God of structure and systems and planning and organization. You think about how organized like the human body is with all
yeah,
the systems that we have, like circulatory, respiratory, all the way to macro systems like the solar system and gravity constants and how with the elements on the periodic table, everything is so hyper organized
right.
in all of the universe that he created by speaking. He's a planner and he's organized. So you can take heart in that. So like breathe out a little bit and trust him. I there's that I don't know if it's a psalm or a proverb, but I do know the verse that says I should know it. It's in the book, but it's we make our plans, but the Lord directs our steps.
Yeah,
And that doesn't mean so don't make plans because he's going to direct your steps. I think it means make plans and then let him direct your steps. So make your plans, have your dreams, live with vision, have values, and then hold them in open hands. So you're giving him permission to add to them, take them, change them, or just maybe he just wants to pour more blessing in, but he can't do that if you're doing this.
yeah,
You know, it'll only become everything you want it to become if you hold it like this, if you hold it in open hands. And so with our, especially if you're, and I'm a dreamer and a planner where those dreams are very, very important to me. They matter a lot. And it's so funny, man. When I travel, I'll try to take one of my kids with me. And
yeah.
I just took my 5-year-old Kinsley with me about a month ago. And we went to a mall one night. It was her very first time ever at a mall. And she realized I really like malls. Wow, this is cool. When can we come back to another mall? But I wanted to buy her a necklace to always, and not just like a $10, you'll not have it next year, but like wanted to find a cool necklace that she would have for, when she's a teenager, she still has it and remembers our time and that trip. And when we got back to the hotel room, she took it off and gave it to me. She said, Daddy, will you hold on to this so I don't lose it? And it was such a cool moment. I realized I was like, yes, it matters so much to me that I want my dad to hold it
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
it's way better in your hands than mine. And I think your dreams, your plans, the details, If you're like
Mhm.
me, they matter so much to you. They mean so much to you that you don't want to surrender them. But it's that mindset of they matter so much to me that Dad, will you hold these plans? And I trust you with them. And sometimes he doesn't ruin them. Sometimes it's like he's like, okay, let's go. I just want to add more purpose to it. If he does ruin them, it's not going to be because he's sending you to go to Mozambique where you have no passion and you're just going to begrudgingly do it for the rest of your life. He's going to change it to something where he's going to give you passion for that's going to give you life and
Yeah.
purpose. And so you can trust him with these things that matter most to you, give them to him. Sorry, my dog is whining. I don't know if you hear this. I'm just going to let her out this.
I saw the wagging tail.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay. There we go.
No, that's awesome. No, no, that is so good. And I think that when I kind of look back at my life, what's interesting is not every single one of them, because some of my plans, some of my dreams were not aligned with him. They were selfish or they were my own, but there's so many of them that God has worked in ways, and it brings me to Ephesians, you know, the immeasurably more. Like
Mm,
God gives us more than we ask, hope, think, or imagine. And from my college degree, PR and advertising, like the amount of spaces and places that God has kind of said, hey, like that skill is going to be used to serve, and it's going to be
hmm.
used to point people to me. And I've always
Amen.
been a sports nut, and
Yeah.
I've loved playing sports, being around sports. My first major was sports management. There was I looked at the list of majors and it was sports management or sports turf management, and I'm not very good at grass, and so I was like, well, I'll just do that one. And like it lasted 1 year, but the way God has weaved those things in, working for a professional athlete for 3 years and doing stuff with collegiate athletes, like God has weaved
Mm.
those things in ways that maybe I didn't
It's
plan
cool.
or
Yeah.
anticipate. But I think those
Mhm.
God-given things, like you said, like God, hold on to these. Like these are important to me and want them, I mean, this is a desire, but when God aligns those things, like it talks about God giving the desires of our hearts, like when those things are aligned with Him and we're aligned with Him, they're better. And so
Mhm.
another side note is
Yeah.
my daughter's name is Kinsley. And so I read that
No way.
I read that in the book and I was pumped. But yeah, she's 8. And
Wow.
um
Okay.
yeah, so we got fellow Kinsleys spelled the same way. It's great.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a rare name, so very cool.
Yeah. But hey,
Hmm.
we were talking about you brought it up, but values. And I
Yeah.
think something in my life that I've realized and something that we're kind of exploring on the podcast right now is just kind of how do we find them? How do we live them out? But you have the Wekenman code. And
Hmm.
so I just want to hear from you, like, how has that kind of impacted your life, your family, and the way you make decisions? And what is the Wekenman code?
The Wekenman code. We're Wekemans. We're kind, brave, confident, and we can do hard things. That's what it means.
How did you
And
how did you settle on those? Like, how were those the four?
that's a good question because we could add
Yeah.
and and maybe soon we will and expand on it a little bit. Um, it always like I was like, generosity's got to be in there though, because I feel like, and so that's the beauty, I guess, of values. There's always room for more. I think it just matters that you intentionally live by something that you have thought through. People start companies all the time, and they're going to have a mission statement and values and a vision the first week. That's like the first thing you do. But we start families all the time and never think about words
Right.
intentionally about who we are, why did God bring us together? Why has God given us kids? Why? And there's that verse that says, like, without vision, people perish. And I wonder if that's true for marriages. I wonder if that's true
Mhm.
for families. Like, you need to know why we are together, where we're going. Leaders have to be able to point at a horizon and say, that's where we're going. That's
Yeah.
what Jesus did all the time. He said, My kingdom is like this, my kingdom is like that. 10 times in Gospel of Matthew, he's just painting a picture of using words which matter. This is where we're going. This is how all this ends. But it's not just how it ends. It's like your kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. We are
Right.
dragging this into today. And I think, there's that classic quote, culture will happen by default or by design. So your church has a culture, your company, your family, your house has a culture. It's not like we have one or not. Now you have one. It's just what is it? And it will happen by design
Yeah.
or by default. So if you have accidental values, so like let's say for instance, sports is I'm a big sports guy, but you'll agree with this, I'm sure. It can become, when you have kids, like let's just say sports becomes our value accidentally, that will eventually create a default culture of we go to church sometimes
Right.
because games are on Sunday and God is sort of second to sports, at least for now in this season. And before you know it, you're asking your 11-year-old if they want to go to church today versus
Right.
no, we are a family. So, and that's accidental, leads to a
Yep.
default culture versus intentional is no, no, no. We love sports, big sports family, but we don't miss church, guys, and
Yeah.
we put God first. Like, that is going to create a culture by design of God is first in our home. Uh, I think about you can accidentally have a value of achieving, and because that's what gets praised, and a good report card is what gets you love in your house.
Mhm.
It's going to create a default culture of conditional love.
Right.
And I am loved if I get A's. So you better
Wow.
hustle. And then you take that into college with you and then post grad with you versus like, no, 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 that was, we have an intentional value of hard work.
Yep.
So like my son can bring home a report card and I hope that you achieved, I hope that you did good and we'll celebrate that. But who we are as hard workers, buddy. And and I'm proud of you for doing that. Like you can't control if you achieve or not. You can control if you put effort into this or not.
Yeah.
And so if you're not careful, like achieving will become the value instead of the hard work and the growth becoming the value. And that's going to create a
Mhm.
culture of either, yeah, conditional love or um, like we work hard because we get to do this and there's a culture of purpose and so on and so forth. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, and even take that a step farther, quick, of like the decision side. And, what does God have planned for me next? Like, how does that code, how do those values, how can they guide us?
Hmm.
Or how can God use them to guide us?
Yeah, exactly. Like they, it's kind of like a vision. If you start with the end in mind, like you can point to the horizon, right? The kingdom of heaven is like this, or this is who we are. We are this. We're not this, or this. It's almost like a road trip. That's the metaphor I use in the book. If you know that you're going, like I'm in Austin, if we know we're going to Disney World, which is east in Orlando, Florida, we can't hop on the highway and go like if we pull up to the stoplight, the decision's made for us. It's like I don't have to sit here and pray and wonder, do I go
Right.
straight, left, or right? When I get to the highway, it's like, do we go east or do we go west or do we go north or do we go south? It's like, no, no, no. We know where we're going. So if you know the destination, that's going to answer 1,000 different questions today.
Yeah.
And like, if you know, like, like I told Will all the time when I drop him off at first grade, like, tell me the code. We're kind, brave, confident. We can do hard things. Okay. When you know who you are, in 100 different situations today, you'll know what to go and do.
Yeah.
And I
That's so
think
good.
the step before that is knowing who God is. When you know who God is as your maker and as your designer, you'll know who you are because you're made in his image. And the more you know that, the more you'll know what to go and do. The more you know why he put you on this planet, the easier it is to make the decision the day after you graduate college of do I go left or do I go right?
So good.
Yeah.
So good. And I really can't say enough. You know, your book is coming out very soon. What does God have planned for me next? And want everybody to pick it up. We'll have that in the show notes. We're actually giving one away to you guys have been kind enough to send one my way, and I'm pumped
Awesome.
because I just think it's a question a lot of people are asking. And
Yeah.
I think when we don't hear, we tend to just kind of take that driving wheel back.
Hmm.
And you know, as a big baseball guy, I was just at a friend of mine's son's baseball game. He's 15. I've got a 5-year-old. He's playing or 6-year-old, and that's just chaos. But
Yeah.
you know, I played baseball, and the coach is on third base. And now they don't do like the signs like we had back in the day. They just do numbers. And I was
Hmm.
so confused. And I looked over at my friend Callie. I was like, what's going on? Like, what are the numbers? And but the players had a code, they had a sheet. And I think so often from the outside, when somebody talks about, hey, I'm following God's plan for my life, somebody's like, wait, what do you mean? Well, there's a language, and God's word allows us to understand who he
Yeah.
is and what he's about. And I just think that the person, like, that's the first step for me
Mhm.
is get to know him, and he will continue to guide you. I've said and just loved what your book said, but the world says follow your dreams, and I've just really realized and honed in on like follow Jesus, not your dreams,
Yeah.
because it leads us to bigger and better than we could ever hope or imagine. But
Hmm.
um, two little things to finish out the podcast. One is, what does adventure look like in your life right now? Like average Tuesday, Wednesday, what's adventure to you?
Adventure to me is, you know, I've always been really comfortable packing a U-Haul and moving across the country. We moved a lot as a kid. I
Yeah.
got really good at that. And there's a lot of adventure to it. It's like into the unknown. Elsa sings that in Frozen 2. Obviously, that's why I'm quoting it. I have two little girls. But adventure has kind of swapped for me to I've never put roots down this long in one place.
Hmm.
And so I know like I'm in a we're a nomadic generation where it's always like next job, next city, next church, next relationship. But to stay and see like I wonder what is going to happen in year 9 of being in Austin and doubling down
So
again
good.
and
Yeah.
saying this is the city I chose to follow God's plans and build a church. I wonder what year 15 looks like.
Yeah.
I wonder, staying this long in a marriage, in a family, in a church, in a city, I wonder what year 20 looks like. Like to me, that is
So
the
good.
power of staying and the power of the same, the power of remaining. It's like Jesus in John 15, just remain, like healthy things, like a redwood grows strong, but not overnight, over a lot of time.
Yeah.
And I just wonder what that could feel like. So
So good.
yeah, that's my adventure.
Yeah, I love that. I know
Mhm.
it's like the mission for me is helping people find adventure in the ordinary places. And, you know, for somebody that maybe has experienced a lot, like for you to say that is really powerful. And I think one thing we do with our guests on the podcast is we ask them one thing they're celebrating and one thing they're anticipating. And so often we do this like really far out. We look at, I'm anticipating vacation in 9 months.
Hmm.
But what I feel like when we draw that closer and closer, it makes us more expectant of what God has for us today, tomorrow, the next day. So what's something right now that you're celebrating, and what's something you're anticipating?
Celebrating and anticipating. And anticipating as in like right around the corner.
Yeah, you're looking forward to it. Could be today, it could be this week, could be big, could be
Um,
small.
okay, I actually love that because I love how you phrased it because I live in the future so much that it's harder for me to live today because
Mm,
I'm like
yeah,
visionary thinking about
for
months
sure.
from now. So I was gonna give you an answer about a trip next week where I'm gonna play golf in California, but I'm not because we have two really good friends, our neighbors, Matt and Reagan are coming over for dinner tonight,
Let's go.
and kids will all have like babysitters, and so we'll just me, Sam, and Matt and Reagan will just have a good meal and talk, and we do this thing. They did it with us where they had us over and shared like their top 25 songs in each of their lives with us, and that comes with so many stories and conversation starter. And so we're now going to do that at our house, where I made a playlist of my top 25 songs, and so did Sam, and we get to go through and explain them to Matt and Reagan, and we're going to do that 3 hours from now, and I'm really
Let's
looking
go.
forward to it.
You got to give me like one or two songs from the playlist.
Songs that have just been the top 25 in my life. So not even right now, but
Yeah,
just
yeah.
sort of what they've meant overall. Where I Belong by Switchfoot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's the last song on the Vice Versus album that came out, I think, in 2011. Um, and then maybe the Jurassic Park theme song. I have so many cinematic songs on playlists for sermon writing and book writing.
Yes.
Yes, so there's a song called
That's
Journey to
awesome.
the Island by John Williams on the first original Jurassic Park soundtrack.
That's awesome. Man, I
Yeah,
love
dude.
it. I love it. Well, hey,
Yeah.
this has been a ton of fun and just super pumped for you, super pumped for the book and just how it's going to impact. I know you serve faithfully at your church, and it's fun to see when that impact can kind of spread its wings even farther. And so
Hmm.
be cheering you on for sure. Thanks for taking some
Thanks,
time with
dude.
us today.
Heck yeah, man. Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
Hey everyone, we hope you enjoyed this episode with Doug. It was so fun just to have him sit down and talk about his life and how he discerns God's voice. But it's awesome to hear just what adventure looks like for him. And I think what he said, what he spoke to is relatable in the sense that adventure can look like doing something new or going somewhere new. But for him, he's really challenged that adventure is what he's doing right now, today, and it's staying and it's being faithful with where his feet are and it's being present with the people around him. And so I feel like that's super powerful for me. That's a good reminder for me as well. And so hopefully it's a good reminder for you.
Yeah, I know there's so many things, so many pieces of the conversation. There's even parts that I wanted to talk about that we didn't have time for. But really, that whole idea of adventure for him, but also as we talked about that idea of how our core values, like that's something that he writes about in his book. But it was just really cool to hear his perspective on how when we kind of get clear about who God's called us to be, those decisions can become a lot more natural. But also to not over spiritualize it. God is speaking, he's always moving, and he's a loving father that has good plans for us. And so I know there's so many takeaways for me that I could hone in on, but those are just a couple of them. And really, I can't speak it enough. He's not paying me or anything, but like get his book. What does God have planned for me next? I read this book in preparation. I marked it up, tons of notes, because and I've done this before. I've had people on the podcast to talk about a book or whatever, and I don't get through the whole book. I'm just going to be honest. This one I ate up real fast and I loved it. And so you're going to as well.
And we're going to give this copy away as well. And so we really do believe that this can bless you. This can help you discern the next season of your life. And so we're going to give away a copy of the book. You can go to our Instagram at evdayadventure to learn more about how to enter that, as well as in the show notes.
Absolutely. It's going to bless you. So hopefully you win it. So make sure you join in on that. But we're so glad that you listened today. If you don't want to miss any of our upcoming episodes, make sure you subscribe. And also make sure you jump on that Instagram and find us and talk about what we're doing or join in on what we're talking about, I think is what I'm trying to say. But we post just clips from the episodes. And so if there's anything that you've ever really stuck out to you or something that's resonated with you, share it with somebody, because we believe that there's a lot more people on the other end that could hear these conversations and benefit from it. So we love you, and we'll see you next time on the Everyday Adventure podcast.